Okay, so if you turn the page of your notes, you're going to see some word problems, and I know you guys dread them, but you can't get away from them because you got to know how to work them. So before we jump into them, this is not on your notes, but I want you to write this down because if you keep this in mind, it may kind of help you when you're trying to um, get your information in order. So when you have a linear system, okay, and in our case, we're going to have a two equation linear system. Remember I said for algebra 1, we keep it at 2, and then when you get in your other maths, it may increase to 3 or 4. But when you're talking about a word problem as far as this unit goes, there's two things you need to remember. First of all, you need to remember that you have to have, if there's a two equation system, you've got to find your two equations from the word problem. You've got to be able to figure out what are the two situations that are going on in your word problem. Because if it's a two equation linear system, you've got to be able to pull two equations out of that word problem. The second thing that you're going to have to know or keep in mind is that you need two variables. All right, that's your x and your y. So these variables are going to be in the form of quantities. So you're going to have to look carefully at that word problem to figure out what the two situations are, because that's what your two equations are going to be. And within those equations, what are the two quantities that I'm comparing? And if you keep that in mind, setting up your equations will be easy. And speaking of, that's all we're going to do for these two word problems. I don't want to get into the graphing because these are word problems and we're dealing with money, and there may be variables that have decimals and things like that. So we're just going to read the problem, break it down, get our information, and we're going to put them in slope-intercept form, but you don't have to worry about graphing them because I think that'll be enough for now. We'll try to graph them maybe on your mastery check or something. So if you take a second, read example 2. It says kirigami is a Japanese art of making paper designs by folding and cutting paper. Now, as a side note, you may have heard of origami. We do that in my geometry classes. Origami, that's just folding. So kirigami, if I'm saying that correctly, is when you can cut and fold. So a student wants to sell small and large greeting cards with kirigami. He wants to sell them at a craft fair. So the small cards will be $3. The large cards will be $5. The student collects $95, so he goes to the craft sale, and he earns $95 from his sales, and he sells 25 cards. So we want to know how many of each card did he sell. So while you're reading this and why I was like paraphrasing it, I hope you were thinking about what are the two variables, because it was pretty obvious if you were reading it, and what are the two equations. So let's start with the two variables. The student is making greeting cards and he has two different types. He has small and large. That's your X and Y. We're going to let X be the small cards and Y be the large cards. Now, am I breaking any rules if I say that Y is small and X is large? No, that's just what I started with. So he has small cards and large cards. Now, look at the second to the last sentence. It says the student collects $95 for selling 25 cards. That one sentence is going to give you your two equations. So watch this. The first equation is going to be based on the cost, all right? The cost of the cards and the money that he earns. If the small cards are $3, that's 3 times X. And he also sold large cards, that's 5 times Y. That's equal to the total amount of money he made. That's your first equation. Okay? Your second equation deals with how many cards he sold. He sold 25 cards total. So he sold small and large to give me 25. We don't know how many. That's the question that we're trying to figure out. So you would simply say X plus Y equals 25. So this is your money equation, and you'll hear me probably say that because usually when we talk about a system like this, you're going to have a money equation and you're going to have a count equation. All right? In the next video, we're going to solve these two equations and set them up.